Hi, I'm Gianluca Fiorelli. Welcome back to the third session. Today we are going to talk with a fellow consultant, Italian, but American Italian. He was born in New York. He's living now in Miami. He defined himself formally on LinkedIn as a growth advisor and one of the most experienced specialists in software as a service, growth consultant. And the person is Gaetano DiNardi. How are you doing?
Ciao, Gianluca. Thank you for having me. I have to start by saying, you're one of my SEO heroes
Hey,
that I looked up to for many
don't make me
years.
blush. Don't make me blush.
Yes. I remember reading all your masterpiece articles on Moz and all these great pieces you wrote, even all before the AI was started. And I thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. It's an honor. So thank you.
So you're living in Miami. I think it's still hot there.
Oh, yes. It's hot and beautiful. Yes.
Okay. So you are a growth advisor. Why don't you want to? Well, I will ask you this after. But let's start with a classic question of a third session. How SEO is treating you lately?
It's an awesome question. And I will say that it's been great. It's a couple of aspects to it. One is that there's this new excitement, this new life that's been, I think, injected into the SEO space. Of course, there's a lot of craziness and maybe in some cases misinformation, but I'm enjoying all the new, exciting ways that SEO is evolving. And then on the business side, demand is high. In fact, I have all retained my clients from last year, this year, and helping them transition through the SEO AI changes that are happening. And so for that reason, companies, they still want to keep pressing the gas on SEO. They're not giving up on it, despite maybe what some of the counter narrative is saying. But SEO is dead and it's only about AEO, GEO. But overall, SEO has been exciting, changing fast, of course, but overall great and very positive.
It's cool to know. It's also reassuring to hear for once a very positive impression from someone like you. Because usually it's the bad humor is usually the more constant thing. I think you may represent, let's say, a sort of change that I'm perceiving. Before, people were really nervous about the changes that we were experiencing. But now I see people, let's say, the old guard SEO, especially more than, and also some of the younger generation, somehow taking control of a nerve, of the nerves, and saying, okay, I mean, we are maybe the most entitled to drive this kind of change and eventually to educate this kind of change to the client. And I want to start, in fact, with you share with me a document where you are substantially putting on paper the tough question CEOs are asking about AI SEO. So substantially, these are the question I think that you almost daily are receiving, and that probably are very common to all of us. So, but which question is the one that you constantly hear from your clients and from your also potential clients, where people out of the search industry that are contacting you?
Yes, something you're also familiar with, Gianluca. It's really the question about traffic. So how do we know that SEO is still worth investing in if traffic has gone down? In fact, this sort of linear progression from classic SEO to revenue. So it's the classic CFO mindset where you have ranking for keyword position. Then, based on that ranking position of that commercial intent keyword, you can estimate to some degree click-through rate. From there, they expect click volumes to website traffic. And then for some type of conversion rate formula, you can sort of do the prediction or the math on, if I rank here and I get this many clicks, we do CRO on the websites, we can predict this many leads coming in from the organic channel. But that linear progression is breaking because clicks are going way down. And so that is the biggest question that I am getting. How do we know if SEO is working, if traffic is going down? How should we think about investing in SEO if we're not going to get the traffic on the back end?
Yes, but I think that this wasn't something new. And I think that is something that the eruption of Google Analytics 4 start to disrupt it. In the sense, if you remember, in the old classic Google Analytics, we could eventually see the contribution of SEO, of organic, to conversion eventually finalized through another channel, like let's say paid. So someone first come to our website from organic, then after a few days return clicking on ads or from a referral or from social media. But part of that first touch was organic. So there was somehow a contribution from organic. And I think that not having, in at least in the default views of Google Analytics or GA4, we don't have that kind of vision. So the attribution that we lost that kind of information, especially businesses lost that kind of information. So it's harder for them to understand that SEO, organic, maybe it's not bringing you a traffic that converts, but it's helping you with awareness so people return when they see you in other surfaces, which can be also a referral from ChatGPT, and and then convert. I think that is more it's really a problem of how to measure stuff. And I think also that is something that we should understand that probably the classic attribution model is disappearing. So it's somehow it's, for instance, when I was working on television, I mean, we were trusting Nielsen in order to understand how many people were watching our our channel instead of others. And I mean, when Nielsen was a focus group with interviews or with a machine in warehouses that were recording the change of a channel on the TV and just that. So, but I also see there is another classic question. How many times are you asked to, how can I rank on ChatGPT?
Oh, this is a nightmare question. Yeah, it comes up a lot. Even worse than that is the CEO searched for a thing we do on ChatGPT, and our brand was not associated with that thing. And therefore, we did not get the recommendation from ChatGPT after the CEO searched that. And so I will regularly get those sorts of messages in Slack from, say, like the head of marketing that, now the CEO's, breathing fire down his or her neck because they searched for a thing we do in ChatGPT and the brand was not recommended. And now I have to think about how to explain that you are missing the necessary co-occurrences on the web because your brand was known for this thing for a very long time. And now you want your brand to be known with a brand new thing, but you haven't done the foundational marketing work in order for that to happen. And so now I have to have those conversations, which I know you are like the grandmaster when it comes to entity-based SEO and semantic search and all that. So I'm spending more time talking about like brand entities now and missing co-occurrences, which need to be a broader part of marketing. It's not something that SEO teams can solve on their own. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think that this is something that we are not innocent. I mean, the sense that for many, many years, we are a strange community because from one side, we are very proud and substantially thinks that organic and SEO is the king of all the digital marketing channels. When maybe the king is email marketing, if we want to be serious, because it's the one that never dies. And so we, from this proud position, many in our industry never really care about other channels. And so omni-channel is clearly the way to go now. I mean, all the marketers in different specialties must collaborate together in order to do the classic things that 1+1 is not 2, but 3. And I think that this is also something, somehow as people in Spain are used to say, is a reality buff. Cioè, you, you are put in a bath full with reality and you wake up from your dreams. So this is, I think, the real situation, the real wake up maybe that people are starting to have now. But then that's why I also urge the SEO community, especially when it comes to search, for instance, LLMs, to drive the conversation, to not make them steal this opportunity to drive a conversation so that new invented gurus of AI search who never did anything before about search are explaining to us what we have to do.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the AI bros, as you've been calling them, which I find
Yes,
very
yes.
clever. But it's an accurate description. But for example, I have to collaborate more with PR teams now than I ever have before. And one example that happened recently, a CEO was worried or concerned that a top competitor has a better AI association with their brand and their product, that they're more AI forward, that they're more innovative. And I had no way of figuring out how to prove or disprove that. But then I came up with this little hacky method, and I would love to know what you think about it, Gianluca. But I basically took all the entities that were associated with each of the brand terms. And then I had Claude go through a comparison of those entities associated with each brand. And I had it do an analysis of which brand had more AI entity salience. And it did a spectacular job, way better than I could have ever done manually. And based on that analysis that it did, I was able to bring real data into the conversation with PR and say, look, here's where this brand is outshining us in the AI conversation. And that was extremely valuable rather than just trying to, maybe cherry pick stuff off the website or do it manually. And so, yeah, I kind of had some of that idea based on some of your writing, actually. But yeah, would love to know what you think about that method.
And I think it is really the way to go. I think that competitive analysis is really becoming a critical asset. And using, as you do, Claude, tend to use Gemini, but using the model is not the important thing. Is the fact that you are supporting your work with the reasoning of AI models. Yes, this also means another thing, that sometimes SEO did okay, but very fast, which is really spending time with the client or with the boss, if the SEO is in-house, to truly understand the business model of a client, to truly understand the business model of the industry where the client is acting. And so understanding, being able to individuate the priorities, able to understand why the brand is using a given tone of voice and why the competitor uses a different tone of voice. And especially understanding and asking for a very detailed, I never really liked it as a term, but the buyer persona. Not only the buyer persona, also the audience persona, because when we think to, which is again not really new, but it's even more important now. The buyer persona are the people that we want to target for becoming our subscribers in the case of a software as a services, for instance. But the audience persona are the one that collaborating with digital PR we can contact with in order to have their links, their mention, and blah, blah, blah. So to appear this kind of entity connection between AI and our services, for instance. So yes, it's the job that must be done before, because if not, you are substantially inventing stuff.
That's right. And I'll be honest, I used to think this was fluff when I first started doing SEO. I used to think, let me just do this on my own. Let me just pound, backlinks on my own through my network or through outreach. And let me just build pages and let me just forget about all this. I didn't really understand how important all this stuff was until later in my SEO career. When you're dealing with the higher level executives and stuff, you have to think way more strategic than just keywords and backlinks. And obviously, we're seeing that today. But in this example that I told you about, there were three things that the competitor did different than my client, why they were perceived as more AI innovative. Two of those reasons was their feature set, like you were saying. They have something called predictive analytics and predictive model. So I realized that because they have a distinct feature set with this concept of predictive, that automatically fits into the AI story beautifully. And they also did something genius. They have a branded AI product line, which my client does not have. So I was able to take those insights to that discussion, and it really, I think, opened their eyes. And probably this is stuff they already knew deep inside, but they needed, something like they need to reinforce to them. But yeah, like I've matured a lot throughout my SEO career, and understanding how to bring these sorts of insights to higher level conversations and how you collaborate PR, for example, is an important part of the job. And especially now with AI, you have to do it.
And yes, and this also other types of collaboration between channels, for instance, with email marketing, because for instance, in email marketing, you can understand what kind of content usually, or what kind of newsletter, for instance, is having with the email statistic the biggest open rate, the biggest feedback with any kind of leads or lead generation things that the newsletter can organize with paid search or paid social, because with paid social especially, they are really strong on everything, trends, the word of mouth, and how people really talk when are referring to your services. So it's really about creating this sort of very strong synergies with the other channels. And doing so, we can offer a better informed SEO and AI search strategy and more effective tactics to achieve the purpose of that strategy. But one of the purposes is obviously, as you were saying, conversion or lead generation. I'm coming to a Substack that has been written that you share with me. And it's about the classic question, because we are living in strange days. One says one thing and can prove it. One person says the opposite thing and can prove it. Let's go to the big question. How much LLMs traffic convert? Because we know that traffic is, we always blame Google because the traffic is shrinking, zero click, AIO stealing traffic. But ChatGPT, the traffic is ridiculously very, very low. Aleda Solis recently shared another study which was saying that which is fun because I think it was a study by Profile, and it was saying that the biggest CTR for the most visible URL is a miserable 1%. So the traffic is really small. But what about the conversion rate? What is your experience?
Yes, for the context of B2B software, the website conversion rate from ChatGPT is very high. It's actually even higher than Google search or Bing search, organic search as a channel. I have some theories on why that might be. Some of them are obvious, some of them are less obvious. I think the obvious one is that because ChatGPT is so good at fulfilling a very specific intent, and it can drive you directly to those pages that you want to go to after a lot of back and forth in the conversation, you are more likely to be more informed. You're going to go right to the page, perhaps even deeper in the site than the homepage, for example, and you may be able to convert easier because of how targeted it is. I think maybe a less obvious insight is that Google search sends a lot of top of funnel that is not commercial intent, buying intent traffic. And so therefore it's going to skew the conversion rate in the opposite direction. So I don't think it's fair, first of all, to just look at ChatGPT conversion rate versus Google search conversion rate and say that Google conversion sucks, because it's different buyer types, different stages, different mindsets going to the website. So just doing that comparison off the bat wouldn't be fair. But I would wager that if you isolated Google search traffic to just the bottom of funnel pages and you compared that to ChatGPT, it would probably be on par. So we can start there, John, and see what you think.
Yeah, yes. I think that obviously then it also depends on the type of industry. Some types of industry tend to be bigger weight on conversational queries, for instance. So people can be honestly totally satisfied by the answer that is given by the LLM. For instance, recently I'm working with another website. And when I use Claude in order to understand how Claude is shaping the answer for certain types of question, and this question can be considered okay, they are informational, but usually as the start of a potential customer journey, not just information. But Claude don't trigger the search part of Claude. It's just relying on models. And when you ask it to Claude directly, very candidly, why are you not linking to any source? Because it says because this is common knowledge. So I don't need to search for new, fresh content. So I think that sometimes it's also this the reason. Certain industry needs a longer step of informational queries before eventually triggering the commercial part of the customer journey. In the case of a SaaS, I think that there are two main reasons. One is cultural. I think that people searching for a software as a service usually are more aware of how things work. And so they tend to use maybe more an LLM to directly go to what they want. So they don't need to do tons of questions in Google's classic queries in order to find eventually a search result that can answer to their question. So they go directly to an LLM, do a very verbose prompt and ask. And secondly, also this kind of buyer persona is when he started to do a search, maybe already scouted website directly. And so it's going to an LLM in order, in the classic micro moment, which is I want to buy, but I need help because he saw everything. He already saw everything, but he wants to find somehow a judge able to tell him of all these things, which one is the best for me. So it's like going into a shop and asking to the clerk, okay, I know all this PC, but which one is really the best for what I want to do? So I think this is why maybe in the SaaS niche, the conversion rate is bigger than Google search or Bing search.
I think the personalization has a lot to do with it. Absolutely.
Obviously.
Yes. There's another aspect that I would love to get your opinion on, Gianluca, because maybe in other industries, this is not the case, but in SaaS, I believe very strongly this is the case, that there is a dark SEO file. So these searchers also don't fully trust the LLMs just yet. And they often need to validate through Google what the LLMs are recommending and what they are telling them. I saw a great study from a company called Winter, and it was a collaboration with Foundation Digital. It's another services agency. And they found some great data through qualitative research. So they were asking people in their study, if an LLM recommends a brand that you're unfamiliar with, what do you do? And the overwhelming majority was, oh, we go to Google, we search the brand, we look at their reviews, we check out their site, and like we'll manually check it that way. So I do think that the dark SEO funnel that's emerging, particularly for B2B SaaS, is a lot of like exploration and narrowing down through LLMs. But then when it's time to really fact check and probably even convert, they're still going to go to Google. And maybe Google is getting the attribution credit, we can call it, for when they are ready to buy. They did all the research through LLMs and other platforms, and then they just went to Google to convert. And so maybe as Rand said, Google is like the pizza shop that's just getting the flyers for people who are already hungry. And, then there could be a good amount of that happening. So what
Yeah,
do you
yes.
think?
But actually, you are describing the messy middle. The messy middle, what it
Method.
is. Before it was just considering Google, so moving from one server to another server, from one Google property to another Google property. But the messy middle actually is every place where a search can be done, because we are talking of LLMs here, but for instance, in hospitality or travel, it can be TikTok, it can be Instagram. You see a reel on Instagram and about, I don't know, a wonderful restaurant on a terrace looking to Rome, for
Yeah.
instance, to the to the to the roof of Rome. And obviously you can save it, you can trust it, but you know that this is somehow BS. That's real.
That's right.
And so you go to Google in order to understand, to go to see on Google Maps what are the reviews, to see the website. Obviously, you to search the website to see
Mhm.
the reviews of maybe magazine about restaurants in Rome. And so that's, and then maybe you return to Instagram or you go to TikTok in order to see if what people commented, or if other people share things that are not the official reel
Yeah.
promoting the restaurant with
Yeah.
on the roof. This is the messy middle. So that's why we should, as Rand Fishkin promoted very well, but it wasn't his original definition. We must do SEO as a search everywhere optimization.
Yes.
You have to be visible everywhere.
Yes. You reminded me of video because in SaaS, video is very underutilized. And it's most
Mm.
B2B SaaS, they very heavy on rate content still. And I just thought about my own conversion journey. I drink a lot of coffee, as you might expect, Italians love coffee. And I bought an automatic espresso machine. And I started my search on YouTube for this. And I felt that, I did also check Google for like best automatic cappuccino machines, but I felt that all these affiliate sites were fluffy and just trying to make money from the affiliate. So I actually used YouTube to see the product demonstration where somebody was making cappuccinos and macchiatos live and showing the details of the machine. And then from there, I decided which one I wanted to buy. I went to Google and I converted. And I bought a cappuccino machine that way. But I did not click the link, the affiliate link from YouTube to the checkout page. So they will never know that YouTube is the reason why I bought that machine. So there's the messy little gaps on it in real life.
Yeah, yeah, yes, totally, totally. And I think that that this thing of a video, so to come to an anecdote, not really from SaaS, but it was a website. I was an editorial website about everything the Microsoft Word and speaking to developers. And it was the classic website which was explaining things really with a strong text-based content. And actually, we discovered that video were the best thing, especially when it came all the things related to helpful content, update, all the core updates, the horrible end of summer 2023, and that this site started to shrink. See, I mean, for no clear reason to lose traffic. But we saw that the YouTube channel was still working very well. And the YouTube channel was essentially one person doing the video, so the main journalist of the company doing the videos. So we started to do something like not only embedding the video from YouTube to the website, but repurposing the video as in form of shorts, as a or creating other formats. It was a pain because the resources weren't so big. It wasn't a big publisher, but it was working well. So yes, video is, and now even more if we think about AI mode or Gemini in general, maybe because it's Google, we know that videos and YouTube in particular are very important because they immediately transcribe the speech. So it's everything parsed and optimized for chunking part of the video as answers. And in fact, in AI mode, especially in AI mode, and now with Gemini free deep search pumping AI mode, the presence of video is going to boost.
1000%. I've even seen so many of them in the AI overviews in the SERPs themselves. I mean, that's the biggest, foreshadowing clue you can have, right? So, I would love to get more of my clients investing into video, but the logistical aspects of it turn them off. And so, sometimes I present what I've done with other clients in the past that's been successful. Like you can have somebody with a bunch of scripts that you block up studio for the day, and then you just make as many videos as you can. I found that to be effective, but in general, I think it is tough to switch the conversation with clients on how do you get out of the written content hamster wheel and, more into the video and multimedia mindset.
But I think that in SaaS, it could be, I mean, there's always the quality must always be very good. But I think that an area, this is also a question because it's something that always drove me crazy. Why in the SaaS world, all the most interesting content is in a developer subdomain, support subdomain? Why? Because when I work with SaaS, I usually say you already have all your content. As when you work with a B2B, usually the best content is hidden in a PDF. And so I say you don't need to create new content. You just need to repurpose the content you have in this subdomain to have the product-led SEO type of content that you need. So do you ever discovered why SaaS love these subdomains for everything?
Yes. I've seen this over and over and over and over and over again for so many years. The answers are always the same. The first reason that they want to do it is because they want to gate the content behind a form, and they want to collect the contact information of the people who want to consume that content. And then they want to, remarket to them. They want to send them emails and stuff like that. It's the classic enterprise B2B motion. And depending on how enterprise they are, I've even seen paid search campaigns that they don't send the traffic to like a product demo request form. They send it to a research guide that's locked. So you have to, fill out the form to ungate it. So
The classic inbound marketing aspect
1000%
philosophy.
1000%. But it's a cultural problem too. For a lot of like classic sort of traditional B2B like marketers, like especially product marketers, they just default to PDFs. That's just the culture that they were raised in. They love it. I don't know why, but a lot of the work that I do is actually taking the PDF content and working to ungate it, make it, SEO led, ungated HTML content, right? So there's a lot of repurposing that can be done. But back to your point, it's a cultural thing, and then they want to do the classic inbound marketing motion.
Or at least if you really want to have your PDF index, remember to put the UTM campaign parameters and links to your website, because if not, with every browser, it's so easy to just search, find the PDF, having open directly on the browser and download it.
And that is what is happening actually with LLMs. So I've been showing clients, hey, that the LLMs are finding your gated PDFs and sending them out for free. That is actually happening quite a lot. So I don't know. I think gated content will eventually die. You have to have something really compelling now. It has to be like a great, unique report with amazing data or something for B2B to like complete a forum and engage with it. I just don't think that method works well anymore.
And talking about the elephant in the room, because we were talking about ChatGPT, but probably in the long run, in the long term, the winner is going to be Google. I mean, it has the muscle to resist and to spend what must be spent for doing good AI in search, and it's not depending on investors in somehow. So they also build their own processor with teraflop, And so they don't even depend from NVIDIA. So let's talk about exactly. We are ICO substantially, even if we want to call different names, but we substantially, most of the time, the traffic still is more from Google, and Google is having AI overview. And now is pushing a lot, very much, a lot. AI mode. Now with Gemini 3, AI mode start to seem something that is going to be useful and usable mostly. So what is your thinking? Because I know you are a fan of a blog post, a really long blog post that I wrote about how it could be a mode transferred from being just a mode to default search surface. I think that my mistake in that post was still thinking in the old way, so how to transform the features we see on Google, and didn't think that models evolve so fastly that now we can see Gemini creating charts in real time with just a question, just asking that. How do you think, or do you think that Google will really abandon, even if the classic search or not?
I have to believe someday, yes. How far away are we? Who knows? Maybe, at least it's a few years away still, because I think there's a lot more kinks that they need to work out. But, I've been wondering about this for a long time. And actually, I wanted to ask you, because I knew I was talking to you today, if they do roll out AI mode as the default, the thing that they lose is their moat on engagement data from CTR, because that is one signal for ranking. Traditional ranking is, if there's a lot of pogo sticking, we're going back into the results, or the searcher ended their journey here on this result. That's usually a sign that this is a positive answer and that they like this page because it concluded their search journey. So that is the thing that I wonder. What are the things Google will do to make up for the lost engagement tracking that they get from CTR? Because there is going to be no more CTR, or probably very, very, very little. Will it be links? Will it be topical authority? Will it be some combination of overall brand association with an entity? Like, what is your take on that?
I mean, first to remember that it's me inviting you to talk. Okay, that is so it's not an interview to me. But continue with the conversation. What I think, I sincerely think that I changed slightly my idea with respect when I wrote that very long blog post. And the reason is the appearance of Google Web Guide. I think that it's more probable that two things. So one characteristic of Google with respect AI, and especially in the case of Gemini, is that this we see the specialization of the models. We see Gemini in general. Now we have Gemini 3, but then we have very specific Geminis between brackets, one for legal, one for health, one for very specific model that sometimes when generating answer are even called by the general Gemini in order to give a more precise and less hallucinated answer. This attitude there is similar to the classic behavior of Google of really segmenting search for filter, the classic filter in the menu. So we have image, we have video, we have shorts. Even short is not put into close in the same bucket of video. We have news, blah blah blah, books, flights, etc., etc., and then we have web. So what I think is that we will still have web as it is now, not the web guide, but the feature that Google is testing as web guide probably are going to be moved on the classic all search filter. This plus things that from deep from AI mode can eventually be pushed inside AI overview. So combining a sort of hybrid of the two. Why? Because WebGuide is still offering always even a bigger list of URLs because they are not the classic 10. They can be put 95 search results in one long page with no pagination. So that is going to be more difficult for SEO because if you are not in that on your unique page, you are not you are invisible because there are out of if you use WebGuide and you go to the end of the page of WebGuide, you can see Google will say, I analyze 120 sources. I selected 86. So 86 out of 120, it's already big selection. But that 120 is a selection of millions of documents. So if you are in the 121, you have not even been considered
You missed out.
for
Yeah,
that search.
that's right.
And what is cool is that WebGuide Google is presenting is a pillar page substantially. So
Yeah.
segmenting, so it's giving you a deep dive into the topic that you are searching. And so you can eventually go directly to the part that you are interested about. And then it's the meta description, our meta description do not exist.
Yeah, that's coming.
It's the meta description that we started to see in search, normal search, that are created by Gemini, and they are telling to you why this search results is relevant. So for me, that can increase the CTR.
Yeah.
In some cases, not. And this happens, it's interesting, especially with forums. Google is maybe surfacing a Reddit thread because it's relevant, but maybe the thread is 2014. So this thread can be relevant because it says this, but please be aware that it's
Old.
old. It's 10 years old. So
Yeah.
you can say, okay, I don't care. And so Reddit is
Right.
ranting against Google.
Right.
And so I think that that kind of search results page is going to be the one that is going to be the default. With AI overview, all the things that I was saying, okay, maybe in AI mode, the people also ask can be follow-up question. But we're already seeing it.
Oh yeah.
Now, because now almost all the people also ask are AI overview.
That's right.
They are not anymore the classic snippet, the classic search snippet.
Yeah.
And AI mode will be another thing. Maybe still very push from search in order to make a deep research on AI mode, but not really for search, classic
Yeah.
search.
Yeah. This is super cool, man. I agree. As you were talking, you made me think about mobile as well, because I actually love the ChatGPT mobile app. So I do wonder if over time Google user behaviors will change, where say for mobile, instead of going to google.com on your mobile device or even the Google app, you'll just start using like the Gemini app or the AI mode app if they develop that or something. Because I do think that the AI mode style is very good for mobile. I find it just easier, quicker, more convenient. But on desktop, I kind of do like the blended experience where if I need to go up and down and go deep, I can do that. But if I decide to use the AI mode, I can do that as well. I like the optionality. So maybe that's the way it will unfold. We'll have to see.
Well, and if we connect this bit of our conversation to the one in the beginning, talking about how people maybe start on ChatGPT and then go to Google, the fact to have AI mode separated from the main search is a catch-all because people can start on Google search, then go deeper with AI mode and then return to Google without needing to leave and open a new application. And then talking about mobile, let's see now that Gemini is going to fuel. Finally, it is going to be somehow killed by Apple and reinvented with Gemini. So we are going to have Gemini as default on Android and iPhone.
Very
So
exciting.
all the mobile ecosystem is going to be Google. And I mean, maybe they can even try to, okay, you must choose which system you want to use. But I mean, it's not really so simple because, I mean, you cannot ask to Apple to ask to their user which system, which intelligence do you want to use. I mean, this is still Siri, even if it's fueled by Gemini, but it's Siri. It's not Google formally.
Yeah.
So talking about, there is one thing that you were saying. Sometimes I'm not really agreeing with you. You were saying your talk, obviously, you're talking from your perspective and as a specialist in the SaaS world. So you're saying we should stop creating top of the funnel content. I can agree on a certain grade. But but because we have discussed it on social media, and I think it was X or LinkedIn, I don't remember, but actually owning the space of a top of the funnel space is still valuable for AIT. So maybe it's not, and I want to know your opinion here, it's not really about losing ourselves in semantical discussion about informational content is not useful anymore or is useful, but what kind of informational content? Maybe for SaaS, it should be product-led informational content, not talking about, let's say you are an application about the weather and not talking about how to calculate how weather is calculated through very complicated mathematical algorithm, but more about the product, how it works, what it's using. So talking to the informational content for the right person, not for the universe.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll tell you my beat, Gianluca, with informational content for SaaS specifically. So much of it historically has been that generic fluff where it is so far away and so disconnected from the product storyline. So to your point, that maybe it should be product led. Yes, it absolutely should have ways throughout the storyline of the content where the product gets injected and you can explain how to do something with the product throughout the content. So my beef has been like that very generic style fluff where you cannot even connect the dots to the product storyline at all, or very, very, very small amount of it. And then my other beef with it too is that I feel that Will Reynolds had a great post on this too, is that if you are just doing informational content to drive search traffic, but you don't have the pride in that content to where you will promote it on social with your profile attached to it and you put your name behind it, you stand by it and you're proud of it. If you're not doing that, then it's likely just generic fluff. So that is my beef, is that there's not enough personality, there's not enough unique insight, and it takes away from the value of the content.
So I totally agree with this. I mean, it's also something that I say, why you should have to put in your editorial calendar to write again another what to do in Valencia or in Miami
It
with,
makes no sense.
I mean, instead, and this is maybe where thinking to all the people working in the publishing in niche where they should try to focus. It's hard because it's not easy, but with rediscovering investigative journalism, rediscovering
Yes,
data-informed journalism, because that is the kind of content that, for instance, AI cannot invent.
that's right.
And eventually is the kind of content that even if it's using, the AI is using it mentioned, probably is going to fight it. But, and now I'm going to try to explain myself. I was investigating just a couple of days ago a behavioral test that is happening on Google of AI overview. And I think that you saw it too. Sometimes Google is presenting the classic blue link inside an AI overview. And I was wondering why it's doing that. So that is because Google probably is considering the brand name as a destination and not as a mention. So maybe becoming that destination is the purpose, one of the purpose for an SEO to work, all the strategy and tactics. But then I started to investigate another thing. Why, for instance, when we are going to AI mode or AI overview and we click to a classic mentioned in the column search, sometimes you see that Google is highlighting the chunk that he used the answer, and sometimes not. And then I discovered that the chunk that usually the part that is highlighted many times is copied verbatim So as it is, into the answer. So that means that you are the perfect source for that kind of answer. So maybe that is also a way to eventually combine it with the other one, which is hopefully the way that Google will deal with link at real attribution link inside AI overview and AI mode instead of a classic column, the stupid minuscule icon of a link. And maybe AI, the fact that so many websites are losing traffic because of AI, should be considered not like stealing traffic, but self-conscious understanding that we had the life easier. We need to restart doing things as when paper news magazine were existing, because nobody was going to buy a National Geographic magazine if it was filled with fluff. Even if it was proposing the classic what to do in Valencia with your family, you know that a journalist really knew what to do because he's experienced what to do in Valencia because the photography were not stock photography and so on. So this is harder, take a long time. You know that Google is probably going to scrape it, ChatGPT even more, and maybe you're not going to have the traffic anyway, but it will be able to make you stand out and be the source.
I love it, man. Yeah, I think what you're reminding me of is the consensus versus information game. So you need to have some level of consensus, otherwise you probably won't rank. But you need to have the information game to stand out. So you need to strike that fine balance. I think that what you said about what to do in Valencia is great. Like, you probably need to have some of the things that people would expect. But then if you are the local guru of Valencia and you know all these cool things, then I would definitely trust you more than some random guy with softwares.
Indeed, indeed. Well, oh, 1 hour, 1 hour. It's minute.
Okay.
So now let's stop talking about AI. Let's stop talking about SEO. I mean, I'm opening wide a little bit your camera. And as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, there is a wonderful electric guitar behind. I'm curious, what is your relation with music? Is your passion, is your a way to distress yourself? What it is? What is the relation with music and the use of that guitar?
Yeah, I know. I used to be in the music business before SEO, and I'm not in the music business anymore, but I still love it. And I like to jam out. I like to shred, and it's a great way for me to de-stress and take my mind off of like work and SEO and AI. I can just put my phone down and jam out to my favorite songs, or just play some rhythms and play some solos with pop. It's like one of the biggest things I do for stress relief. So I just love to play. I'm a musician at heart, and I've been playing since I was a kid. So this is one of my favorite things to do.
Cool, cool. And I have the classic question that maybe silly, maybe no, maybe it can be interesting for understanding someone better. But you were born in New York. I mean, I'm a European, so when I think of American Italian and New York, I just think about all the mythology created by Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, all this kind of. But I know that it is not really so. But the question is, what made you move to go to Miami? Because Miami is, again, talking with stereotypes, you start to think Cuban salsa, Latin, the connection with Caribbean and Latin America and the States and so on. So somehow an American Italian looks seems a little bit out of place in the classic stereotypical vision a European may have of the United States.
Yeah, it's a great one. Well, I actually left New York because I wanted to step outside of my comfort zone. Everything became so predictable. I love my family to death, of course. And you know how Italians are with family, it's like we're
Yes.
inseparable. But I felt there was time to step outside my comfort zone, go do something different. And one of the big factors too was that I hate the cold weather. I absolutely hate it. So I thought, what is a place that is not so far from home, where if I want to take a quick flight, I can do that, but also be in a warm environment year round. where can I go where I can wear shorts and a t-shirt every day? And Miami obviously was like top of the list. And of course, let's not forget tax benefits as well, because they charge you way less here than they charge you in New York. So I said, you know what? This seems like it has all the right components to it. And my younger brother Antonio wanted to also move at the same time. And so we decided to do it together. And so because I had somebody to go with, it just made all the sense in the world. This was in 2017, so like way before all the COVID stuff happened. And it was a great time to do it. And I never looked back. And I've had a great life down here. So you can make of it what you want, depending on your lifestyle choices. Me, I'm like a outdoorsy kind of guy. I like to play tennis. So I'm doing that like every week. And I like to cycle as well. Things you can't do in New York so easily around the clock. So that's really why I did it, honestly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gaetano. It was a really nice conversation, this one. And I hope to have the occasion to have a new conversation maybe in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gianluca. Again, this was awesome. I really enjoyed talking to you, hearing your perspective as well. And we'll have to do this again sometime as AI evolves and we'll see where things end up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And also thank you to all of you who have listened to this conversation and or watch this conversation. Remember, ring on the bell, subscribe, and help us this little podcast to grow. Thank you. Bye bye.